Hello everyone. Phoenix61 here with your fresh daily dose of World of Warships Legends shenanigans. How is it going tonight, guys? We are in the Karl Johan today. I wanted to get a couple of games out there with this ship. I don't play it too much, but I do have it because this was previously a campaign ship. So I was able to pick it up for the low price of 2,500 doubloons back in the day. It is quite a bit more expensive this time around. So I would probably not recommend buying it for doubloons, but if you're interested in it, you can get it for 1.4 million global XP, right? If you've been hoarding that, you could get it that way. But yeah, so it's in the store right now for this retrofuturism update. And like I said, you can see it here, 25,000 doubloons. That is, please don't do that. That is way too much money for this ship. It is not that great. It is a little bit of a niche ship. You kind of have to, it kind of only is good in the right circumstance, right? But yeah, if you were interested, right, like if you hoard global XP like I do, the 1.4 million, you could do that, right? And then of course, with the retrofuturism update, right, for 5,000 doubloons, you can get a pretty cool camouflage for it, right? Paint job, whatever. So I did notice in the store today, though, we got to pick up our daily, right? Our free daily common crate. I hoard those for live stream, so we'll open them all at once on live stream next time. But this Travel Through Time bundle is actually kind of a decent deal because it does come with 2,500 doubloons, which is how much, $10 in the doubloon section gets you 2,500 doubloons. But here you'd also get 2 of the retrofuturism boxes and the Jutland crates as well. So like if you go to the doubloon section, yeah, $10 gets you the 2,500 bundle, which you get another 250 with too. But the retrofuturism, those boxes alone, if you were to buy them individually, they're 1,000 doubloons, right? So it's a decent deal, right, for $10, right? So the 2,500 doubloons would allow you to, get the current campaign, plus you get 2 of those crates, right? So it's pretty decent deal, right? But Karl Johan, right? So we already have the ship. I have rigged this for sort of a brawling secondary build. You don't get options for the consumables, right? So you're tied into the heal, the sonar, and the secondary booster. I'll quick blaze through the stats here, or the specs, right? But if you're interested, so if you're interested in anything in particular, hit pause. But then I'll actually we'll go through the commander and stuff really quick here as well. I'll actually show my stats on it too, but we are using Janko Vakovic, right? So yeah, just you don't get a lot of choices for these. What is this, Pan-European or whatever? But Franz von Hipper is kind of your must go to for as an inspiration for any secondary battery build. And then if you've got Haruna, you could use her, but I think there's wiggle room there for that second slot. You don't absolutely have to have her, but she gives you just a tiny bit more range, which in some cases is negligible, right? But yeah, so there's some free to play options there. Or use what you do you on that spot. And then for him, I'm using this Reckless Gunman perk, right? You get a better reload time for main battery. I don't mind the reduction in the torp acquisition range because you do get sonar with this ship, so just use your sonar appropriately, right? Time that correctly. And then Porcupine, and then you could use Firefighter for row 3 here. I am using on second thought to get just a little bit better reload out of it, right, for main battery, but you could use Firefighter. I wouldn't complain there, right? And then I prefer Properly Meticulous for this last row. I know you just get so much more boost to your secondary battery stuff. But I know some folks prefer this Master Mechanic perk because then you get an extra heal and you get up to 2 extra ones if you get her maxed out, if you get the commander maxed out, right? So, but I prefer Properly Meticulous. And then for legendary perks, yeah, you could use any of these. Running with Scissors, Fight Fire with Fire. My preference is Will to Rebuild. And actually kind of use that a little bit in one of these games that we're going to go into. But yeah, then I'll actually show my stats on this. I don't show my stats too much, but we do have a decent win rate with this, like almost 60%. But the thing with this ship, right, is I don't have I don't find myself getting top of the leaderboard, like high XP scores, or even for, especially for a tier 8 battleship, I don't find myself high up in the damage numbers either, right? So if you look at the bottom right, my max damage game, 158,000, right? And my max XP game, 3,100, right? So that doesn't even break your like heroic effort 3,500 max XP that you need for your heroic effort missions, right? Each week. But we'll go into a couple games. So the key with this ship is it's going to be absolutely terrible at these tier 8 and legendary tier battles where you've got big, heavy hitting battleships that are good at firing long ranges at you, right? So especially like American and Japanese battleships, stuff like that, right? So I think we end up with like 2 Montanas in this game, and even in Alaska, right, can hit us hard, right? They're just gonna do, if you're out in those open waters, they're just gonna do big chunky damage to you with every salvo that they send at you, right? Like, so the trick to the way I play this ship, when I at least am successful with it, right, is kind of utilize some island cover to try and get your, to try and close the gap with enemy ships, right? So yeah, this Montana out here, we're getting away with not being spotted here, so I'll hold off on firing my guns for a little bit, just because we're getting away with it, to try and get ourselves into position, right? If I had gotten spotted, I would probably have already turned in a little bit here to try and give ourselves some better angling. And even this Conqueror here is just really trying to tempt us with the broadside. But like the main guns aren't the greatest, right? They're kind of like, Germany type, main guns, right? Like the accuracy is not the best, especially at long ranges, and especially with us having done a secondary battery build for this, right? So yeah, well, as this Montana's trying to dodge torpedoes, we'll take the salvo at him, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about here, right? We get a decent chunk there, right? But you're not going to get those huge hits with these guns for the most part. The trick is really just you got to close the gap and minimize the amount of targets that are able to shoot at you all at once. And so we're going to go in, and we're going to kind of split between zone A and B. Our destroyer on our team went for the B cap, managed to cap it, and is leaving. And so, like, huge props to that guy for doing that on his own here, right? But we end up with 2 destroyers over on this A cap side, and I kind of split the difference between A and B just in case so that way I could support either or, depending on where destroyers showed up. But now it looks like we've got at least the 2 destroyers here in the A cap. So I sent, we can see the smoke screen there, and then we can see this Holland pops up around the corner here. So we'll trigger the secondary booster, and then we'll trigger the sonar, because we know he's going to be sending, one of these guys, it's a Holland and a Gearing, right? There's no way there's not torpedoes coming towards us, so get a little bit of an early warning for the torps here. We'll be able to do some maneuvering. We're going to take at least one of these here. And then I'm going to kind of just stay back behind this island, because if we push out, which would be really great to do to be able to go after those destroyers, but if we push out, those that Conqueror and that Montana out there is going to just really whoop us really quickly. So we're going to have to kind of be a little cheeky here and kind of just minimize how many ships can shoot at us at once, and try and help out with the cap. But we're pushing them away, so Gearing, both the Gearing and this Jutland's going to be, this Holland's going to be done, right? So he probably should have kept moving away, and then the Gearing's going to try and get away, right? So we were able to support this zone. Now our destroyer that capped B is doing the right thing here. It's always nice to have a good destroyer player. And he's going to cap the A cap here too. So, and we're not going to go and chase these ships down. We are not, that is not, the ship's not going to be good for that, right? So I'm going to stay here and hope that, ideally you would hope that the red team would realize, like, hey, they're losing ships, they're losing zones, they're going to have to push up into this zone at some point if they want to get the win here. And so we'll wait for them. We'll be patient here for once in my life to try and actually secure a win with the ship. But yeah, this is one of those scenarios where it'd be a lot of fun to just go and push out, but between the Montana, the Conqueror, there's another battleship out there, plus the Alaskas out there, right? There's just too many big guns that would just take us out quite quickly, right? So ideally you wait for them to close the gap for you in this situation, right? We don't have to push in because we've got the zones. we're up a ship, right? Like, we'll take advantage and use our ship's strengths, because going and sailing out into open waters where there's lots of battleships is going to be this ship's downfall and weakness, right? So we're going to hang tight here. I do have to keep in mind that there is still that gearing out there who's got very long-range torpedoes. So I was going to try and start getting myself a little bit more angled if we can. But yeah, this Conqueror has given us a decent, he's not angled, but like we actually have something to shoot at, which is nice. So I hold off here just because I want to be able to get the rear turrets on target as well. Then yeah, you could see we're getting sort of with every salvo from, between whatever ships are still out there, right? They're just chunking us, right? So we'll move up a little bit. I'm going to try and turn into the right a little bit here too. Conqueror is getting low, so trying to get rid of him. Damaged torpedo tubes, that's fine. Yeah, there's the gearing. So he's got an angle on us for torpedoes. So I'm a little concerned there. Looks like he did send a rack at our destroyer, but he's got 2. Yep, and so here comes some. Those might have been from him from earlier. So we're going to take one of these. We'll damage con the Flood. And he's got a pretty long reload on his torpedoes, right? So we should be good for a little bit here. But yeah, ideally I could have tried to angle better and not worried about getting those rear turrets off on the Conqueror, and probably could have avoided getting a torpedo hit there. But we'll have sonar ready for the next salvo if he is still alive by then. We're going to have to suck it up and let this fire burn. That's exactly why he was shooting at us, right? He knew we damage conned the Flood, so he's going to try and trigger the fire on us. Makes total sense. Alaska's coming up, so this is kind of what we wanted, right? We wanted these ships to kind of, force them to try and start pushing up into the zone. Then if you look at the mini-map too, we're kind of also just kind of killing time at this point, because over on the Charlie Cap side, right over by C, our teammates kind of ran into similar situation, but they've got less enemy ships over there, right? So if we, can kind of kill time and just play defense on this zone, at some point, like our teammates over from the C Cap are going to be able to finish off those reds over on that side, and then start heading this way to start helping us out. But I'm still not going to, right? I'm still holding off on pushing out, because I know that we would just get ended pretty quick. You could see like every little hit that they've done to us has kind of whittled us down. Now I am running Will to Rebuild, so we do have a little bit of a chance here as my allied battleships. They look like they want to push up into these guys. So I could push out, and I'll actually do that here in a minute, but I'm looking at the minimap, right? We're pretty close to our allies here, so we could push out and utilize Will to Rebuild, and then hopefully be able to survive a little bit with that and do some more damage. But we're ticking up on points pretty quick now. We've got all 3 zones, so this game's not going to last too much longer. So even if we do go down, right, like we should still be able to knock out a win here. But right, we'll push up towards our allied battleship. There's the Will to Rebuild. So now if Montana starts taking chunks out of us, we hopefully could survive, right? We just need to angle a little bit here so we're not flat broadside to him. But we'll be able to push up, help with him. We'll send torpedoes since he's pushing up too. And then he may get within range of secondaries. If he does, we'll trigger the booster. This is kind of nice too, because now we're getting a lot of attracted damage, right? So as we sail next to our allies with Will to Rebuild, right, it's giving us that healing. Since we're below, what is it, like 20% health, right? It slowly heals you. So we'll trigger the secondary booster here. But yeah, now we can draw damage and just kind of auto heal, right? As long as we don't take too much at once, we can kind of just be a enemy bullet sponge, right? But we're gonna end up winning on points here. So yeah, even if we do die. But yeah, like I said, like as you can see, right, just by how you kind of have to play this game, right, like my XP is probably not going to be that high. Our damage was only 55,000, right, but we kind of fended off and defended zones and kind of just played our position, and so that knocked out the win for us. And yeah, there's the dead last on the leaderboard there. So we'll go into another game, same kind of situation here, right? We're going to push up on islands and kind of try to utilize island cover, close the gap between enemies, and minimize how many ships are able to shoot at us. The key here is, right, I'm eyeing up this Iowa here. He gets spotted there, and he actually stays spotted by our airplanes for a little bit here. So we'll slow it back down here, but basically this Iowa's coming around the corner, and he's kind of creeping around the corner, so I'm just keeping an eye on the mini map, watching for what he's going to do. And so we can actually move out a little bit wide here and sort of take our time. And we've got lots of torpedoes, right? So you get 2 launchers of 4, I think, on each side that go 10 kilometers. And any other day, right, this Iowa, if he was, further back, right, if we were in an open water battle, he's even down a tier, right, he'd probably do better, right? Like, he'd probably be able to take us out if we were kind of floating out in open waters. But since we're able to close the gap, we get lucky. Nobody else comes and pushes around the outside of this flank here, right? So it's really just us and him. I'm going to guess he probably, I think we did get spotted at least by planes, right? But he's not really aware that we're over here. So I'm just going to hold off. We'll wait till he gets spotted. We'll send those torps. I'm going to use the skinny, right, the narrow angle 2 there and fire short as well. And we'll try and punch through his bow, right? We don't have the best main guns, but we were able to get 3 pens there, right? 6 bullets and 3 pens from the 2 front turrets. But yeah, getting some torpedo hits there. We did save a rack of torpedoes on the starboard side, right? So, they don't do the greatest amount of damage, but it is nice to have lots of them. And so, yeah, we'll turn and we'll try not to give up too much angle. We'll wait for him to fire his main guns. Yep, and there he goes. So now we can turn out a little bit more, make sure we get these torpedoes on target to finish him off. And then we've got a cruiser going into the A cap here. So I kind of figured just between I've already got this momentum going around this outside here. So I won't stop and turn into the A cap zone. I'm going to guess by the time I get turned around and in there, that cruiser is probably going to have it capped, right? So we'll push out on the outside and go into enemy territory here. There's not, since, I think they just abandoned this flank a little bit, right? So we're able to push through it, and now we'll be able to start creating some confusion and crossfires against the red team here. So we'll push up. There's an FDG and a Michelangelo that we'll probably have to deal with here. Looks like we might be able to get a hit there, so we'll take that shot. Swing and a miss, I guess, or the reticle lied to me and we hit the land. But yeah, again, right, we're up 61,000 damage, right? Pretty much all of that's from that Iowa, right? I think we had some help. We've got a battleship behind us trailing, right? So FDG is going to give us some angle here, but you're going to kind of witness, right? These aren't the best main guns, especially with how we've built them. So kind of get, it's okay damage, right? But that's kind of, this is where the ship's going to lack, right? And so, like he's a, brawling battleship too, right? But like that's where this, if that was a, big heavy hitter American battleship or something, right? Like they would have you beat, right? Like they'd be doing really chunky damage to you. So we'll try and close the gap. He probably wants to do the same thing. But we've got quite a bit of torpedoes ready for him. We're within secondary range probably a little bit sooner than he maybe is. So we'll trigger the booster again. I'm pretty sure he's got torpedoes. I know the Michelangelo that's off to the outside has torpedoes as well. So we'll kind of wait a little bit here for sonar. Looks like he's going to turn in, so we'll take a guess and shoot the torpedoes further to the right. And then he did just fire his main gun, so I'm going to try and get around the corner here before he's got those front turrets loaded. And success. And again, full salvo of the main battery. Don't get too much damage, right? So we'll continue to push around. I'm going to trigger the sonar here in case, I can never remember if FDG has torpedoes. I just pretty much always assume German battleships do, right? So we'll trigger sonar. We get lucky with 3 torpedo hits on him. So, and then somebody, of course, finishes him off. And then we go undetected here after having fired the main guns at the FDG, right? So, because the Michelangelo dropped his smoke screen. So I'm going to push up into him. I don't think he had too much health left. We just kind of have to watch out for torpedoes from him. But yeah, once his rolling smoke is done, we'll probably pick him up pretty quickly. And the secondaries will go to town on him. We'll be able to shoot main battery, and we'll have torpedoes if we need them, right? If he's not dead by then. But yeah, he's coming out pretty broadside to us, so we'll take that shot with the AP. We do get a Citadel hit there. And then I'm going to turn in, right, because we know he's sending torpedoes, and sure enough, here they come. Sonar gave us the early warning right away. But as I always say, right, we started making that turn before we even saw those torpedoes, right? Because we know both he's got those very, he's got to really give up some angle to be able to shoot his main guns as well on that ship. And then he wanted to send those torpedoes too, so that was his downfall, right? But we started our turn in before we even saw the torpedoes. It's always the trick to dodging torpedoes, especially as a battleship, right? Even with the sonar and the early warning, if we didn't start making that turn before seeing them, right, we probably would have taken a hit. But we got plenty of health this time around. We're going to fast forward through a little bit more of this game as we do some sailing simulator to try and move up and help out with the remaining 2 destroyers on the enemy team. I think we get a couple of cheeky hits on them, but other people end up with the finishing touches on both of these destroyers, right? So I kept it in fast speed here. So we've got 1 battleship left. I think it is the new, somebody must have bought I forget what it's called. We'll see when we get up to it here. But it's the new Tier 8 British battleship that's for sale, like the paid ship, right? And it's basically a Duncan without torpedoes. And so, if he does, I really like the torpedoes on the Duncan. It is kind of situational to be able to get to use those. But right, so we don't have to worry about torpedoes from him. And he's kind of probably a little bit unaware. I'm going to guess he's focusing on our allied battleship that's in the sea cap right now. So we'll be a little bit of a surprise to him as we come through this gap here. But yeah, a little bit higher scoring game here, 134,000. I think we maybe get the kill on this guy here as we come around the corner because we've got torpedoes ready for him. But we'll have a nice broadside shot. Yeah, the S Thunder is, I always forget, I've been forgetting what that ship's called. Right, but basically a fire spammy battleship. And so yeah, we get a two pens and 2 busted shells there from the 6 bullets we fired from those front turrets, right? And then we got 2 racks, so I fired 1 further out, and then I fired 1 short, right? And so he was turning in. He was playing it right? He started trying to dodge torpedoes before he saw them as well, right, by turning in, but we had the second rack, so sent those short. We'll take a quick peek at the leaderboard here, right? 150,000 in damage there, 3 kills, and we're still only 3rd on the leaderboard here, right? So, yeah. So I kind of struggle to get high up on the board with this ship, so you don't see me play it too much, but it's a fun ship to have and play, but it's not crazy valuable. That's kind of where I'm like, it's just not worth 25,000 doubloons in the store, right? So, but we'll go through the build here again, just very, very quickly. But if you were paying attention in the beginning of the video, right, it's all exactly the same. Haven't changed anything on here. Snow Maiden is just a Commander Geis, right? So we are using Janko Vakovic. And then, yes, Franz von Hipper is kind of your almost guaranteed. Everyone's always using him as an inspiration, right? He's a free-to-play commander, right? So you can go and buy him for Commander XP in the store, right? And then put him on any of your secondary battery, as an inspiration, right? Any of your secondary battery build commanders. Haruna is fine. There's definitely other choices you could put there. You do you. Reckless Gunman for this first row, just for the better reload time. I don't mind the dip in torpedo acquisition range because you do get sonar with this ship, so just time and use your sonar correctly like we did in the videos. Porcupine is giving you the more secondary battery range. You could use Firefighter on this 3rd row, like I was saying, but I went with On Second Thought just because it gives you a little bit better reload time, right? Main battery reload there. You could argue, I do occasionally switch shells in this ship, right? Because just the guns are kind of meh. But then, yeah, Properly Meticulous for the last row here. I know some folks like to use the mechanic perk here in the middle. But I prefer properly meticulous because if you're doing a secondary battery build, you want that extra survivability of the secondaries and extra perks of the secondaries, right? So, but yeah, Master Mechanic, if you get her fully upgraded, you'd get 2 additional heals. And then yes, I was using Will to rebuild. We utilize that a little bit. Running with scissors is also okay for a for a brawler build as well. I know a lot of people kind of prefer fight fire with fire though. So you do you, but I was using Will to rebuild and it kind of worked out for me there. But yeah, that's going to be our video for the day, guys. Thanks for watching all the way through here. If you're still hanging out, right? Make sure to follow the channel, like I always say, all this YouTuber BS, but I really do appreciate it. I am kind of a smaller channel still, so 1 or 2 new people signing up each week or so is actually noticed by me, and I appreciate you. Then I do occasionally live stream, so if you're interested in that, I don't have a set schedule. So the best thing to do there would be to push the bell and get notifications. I am Central Time in the U.S., and so I typically, for me, am on later in the evenings if I'm live streaming. And we just kind of do a little bit more like a relaxed gameplay, have fun with the game, take suggestions on what ships to play, and all that other fun stuff. So I'm interested in that. I'll see you then. Otherwise, yeah, if you're following, I try to do Legends videos every day. So yeah, we'll see you guys tomorrow.